Former President Trump is suing a House committee investigating the January 6th committee attack on the Capitol to avoid cooperating with a subpoena requiring him to testify. Trump's attorney said his client has complied with the committee in good faith before, but now the judicial branch should be involved. For more on the lawsuit, let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. So, Jessica, is the former president legally required to comply with the subpoena?
That's the question. And let me spend a few moments talking about why we don't have a definitive answer, because we've never tested this in court. This really is a matter of first impression. And so when the former president says, I have absolute testimonial immunity, there's no way I have to respond, the answer is we don't know that. A court has never said that. And when the January 6th committee responds and says, you absolutely do need to comply, we also don't have a court ruling on that. What we have is, and the complaint shows this, a lot of language from the Office of Legal Counsel memorandum. We have some cases that kind of touch at this, but we don't have that on all squares ruling that says absolutely, even if you're a former president, you are completely immune from having to comply with a congressional subpoena.
Can you give us some insight into what Trump's lawsuit alleges?
Yes. So the lawsuit alleges basically 6 things, but they boil down broadly to this violates the separation of powers. In our country, there are 3 different branches. They're independent. They're co-equal. And if you can force a president or a former president to come in and comply with a congressional subpoena, then you can force the executive branch to be subservient to the legislative branch. Now, I think for a couple of reasons that might not be a winning argument. There are a lot of other things built in there. There's an argument about executive privilege, about the First Amendment, both speech and association. And then there's a bunch of arguments in there saying, well, the January 6th committee isn't valid. There already been court rulings that in fact it is, that they don't have a proper legislative purpose, that the subpoena is too broad. But at bottom, it really boils down to this argument that Congress can't force a president or former president to comply with a subpoena.
So how likely is the lawsuit against the committee to stand up, Jessica?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first thing you said, Vlad.
How likely is it that the lawsuit will work?
Well, that's obviously the really big question here. So the former president filed the suit in Florida, and obviously that's not where the subpoena was issued. It was issued in DC, and the DC judges have more experience dealing with these big battles between the legislative branch and the executive branch. Now, why did he file it in Florida? Because he has appointed more judges there. He thinks it's going to be friendlier turf. We've seen that when it comes to the arguments concerning a special counsel or special master, he's had more success with the judges in Florida. What's going to happen? I will say we don't know legally what will happen, except we know practically this means he will not testify before the January 6th committee, because there just won't be time to litigate this before the committee dissolves at the end of December. And that's really what this is all about.
Right, kicking the can down the road. I mean, this is a tactic, a strategy that we've seen the former president use for many, many different legal battles in many, many different areas. But, could there be, if this moves forward, what sort of legal precedent could be set based on the outcome of this lawsuit?
I think it's so important to frame it that way, because we tend to view this as, do we like the January 6th committee or do we like the former president? But your question gets to the heart of it, which is, what do we want in terms of the power of congressional committees and the power of whoever is the president or the former president to say, I don't have to comply with your subpoenas dealing with questions about my time in office. And that's the precedent it would set here. It's not, do we think the January 6th committee is doing a good job, or do we think the former president set in motion a self-coup on January 6th? It's what's the balance of power between these two branches. That's the precedent that will be set here. And that's why I think that's such a good question. We have to take the players out of it and look at it in terms of a battle between branches of government.
Jessica, really fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.